This is Gerardo Del Real with Resource Stock Digest. Joining me today is the Executive Chairman and CEO of Hannan Metals, Mr. Michael Hudson. Mike, great to have you back on. How are you today, sir?
Top of the world down under, Gerardo. Thanks for having me back.
Well, listen, I had the pleasure of speaking with Exploration Insights quarterback, Mr. Joe Mazumdar, whom you know very well. He's been in this business for, I want to say, 3 decades or so in some capacity. Economic geologist, knows his stuff. And, we had a good 20, 30-minute conversation. And I want to say about 75% of that, because I'm biased, I'm openly biased, ended up being about Hannan, right? And again, it's one thing for me to be excited about the potential for company making projects and then get excited about, the potential for finding a Cripple Creek analog in Previsto and being able to explore that this year and drill it next. But it's another thing when, Joe Mazumdar, who typically is knowledgeable as all heck, but a whole heck of a lot more reserved than I, which in fairness, most people are. But when he says, no, you can walk up to the thing, Previsto, you pretty much found the source. Every major company in the world is looking at Previsto. So I want to start there because the most recent news release talks about identifying 2 new zones of gold mineralization at Previsto and expanding the footprint to 650 meters strike. That's within, a 4x4 or 5x5 soil gold anomaly. And I want to provide the context because you've done a great job of explaining to my simple brain how, yeah, the high grade is important in these systems, but we have to keep in mind that the analogs all demonstrate that the continuity on the lower grade and the scale really is what gives a lot of torque, right, to future mining once you actually get to that stage in the system. Now, that's far down the road, but this looks like it's the real deal here, and all the major companies have their eyes on it. And I know I couldn't be more excited to get a drill going one day, but for now, I'm really excited about the work in the field. Can we speak to the latest release?
Sure. Well, I think they say, just going back to your enthusiasm, no conflict, no interest, or no interest, no conflict, even.
There you go. I like that.
Anyhow, we're continuing expanding this really interesting discovery we call Previsto. Like you said, it's got a very big footprint. It's got a footprint from the magnetics to the potassium in the radiometrics to the soils at greater than 0.1 gram over essentially 5 by 5 kilometers. And we found one sweet spot in it, and as we're starting to do more detailed work, that's what we call that area, Previsto Central. And now that extends over 650 meters. We've obviously had the very high grade channels that we put in part of that area, which was the nearly 70 meters at 2.4 grams and overall something like 135 at 1.3. But we are seeing very high grades, 10 to 20 gram numbers coming out of that, and 2 to 3 meters at 15 to 20 grams, and that is what these alkalic systems are. They're a sea of lower grade gold, and you find these very high grade parts to these systems that can be amazingly rich, and that's what Cripple Creek was. That's what Porgera is and was, and generally the old timers, I'm talking 100 years ago, started on the very high grade parts at Cripple Creek, and now they're still heap leaching those lower grade parts even today. So that's the nature of the system we're finding. We're continuing to expand. It's hard territory. You've been up and near there. We hadn't made discovery when you walk there, but it's hard yards in steep jungle terrain, so it's not easy. But the team's doing an amazing job. The next step is to try and expand those high grades and show that it's not just 1 or 2 sort of high grade zones, but to demonstrate that they've got both continuity and repeatability. And so we're back in the field looking to do that now. And we've got this much larger footprint that we know now from geochemistry and geology, and we know the rocks that now contain the gold. So we're getting much better at identifying it in the field before we even have to wait for an assay lab, etc. So It's very early days in a massive area that's delivering a style of gold that is very attractive to everyone in the industry. From ourselves to the majors, that the alkalic gold systems are sort of the holy grail of big and high grade. And we've got one, and we've got that first mover advantage, and we've got the big ground position, and there's a lot more work to do, and we will be getting drill rigs on there as soon as we can. We're starting the environmental studies in the next few weeks. We'll have 10 to 20 people collecting all the baseline data to put that DIA application in by Q3 this year.
No, look, that's exciting. And as exciting before that, what's happening right now is the testing of the first priority target, which is Vista Alegre. There is a drill rig turning as we speak. The Belen area, which is host to, I call them projects. Let's call them target in this conversation. But the three targets, Vista Alegre, Sortilegio, and Ricardo Herrera, there should be roughly 5,000 meters initially across 18 diamond drill holes. How are things going at Vista Alegre?
Progressing well. That was the second part of this, really two releases in one, but we're just doing so much now. We just needed to keep the market informed and up to date. So we have the drill rig turning. The first holes finished at Vista Alegre down at 184.6 meters. That's being cut at the moment. We've got all our systems in place, transitioning from a grassroots explorer to a drilling company takes, you make sure you've got the right people there with the right systems, and that's our bread and butter, if you like. But we've made sure that's occurred, so we've got everybody in place, and the samples are getting to the lab, and the drill rig's spinning, and it's a very early days at the start of a drill campaign that is going to test any one of these three areas that you just mentioned that could be company makers in their own right. We're drilling blind targets for the most part, meaning there's not a lot of outcrop like we're seeing at Previsto. So we see a lot of smoke in boulders and soil anomalies, and we're testing the geophysical targets beneath soils where we don't really see too much rock beneath it. So we need to learn. We need to understand where the gold is in these systems. And, ideally you get it in the first hole, but if you don't get it in the first hole, that leads you to the second hole, etc. So each one of these projects has massive potential from the epithermal to porphyry end of the spectrum, and perversely, these are all the sort of second prizes until we get to Previsto. But you don't want to downgrade them in your head or mine, because they're great targets in their own right.
Absolutely. Look, I think with $3,400 gold, silver wanting to break through 35, copper looking like it wants to print, brand new highs, the timing couldn't be better for a discovery or a couple of discoveries. We didn't touch, going back to Previsto, we didn't touch on the silver values, and I should mention that there will be likely a silver contribution at Vista Alegre as well, as we've seen, right? We've seen boulders that have 2.72 grams per ton gold and 44 grams per ton silver, which isn't insignificant. So, no, look, excited. I know that I would ask you when we can anticipate seeing results. I read the release. It said likely, going into July. I know that can vary by a week or two on either end, depending on the pace of the program, the turnaround with the labs, and frankly, what you're seeing on those initial holes. Couldn't be more excited. Anything else to add? I gotta ask before you leave about the continued channel sampling that's going on at Previsto. I've had several people excited about it, obviously, but also asking, are they going to continue that work to better understand the system? The answer, of course, being yes, but in what capacity are you doing that? And in what capacity do you plan on doing that the rest of the year?
Yeah, so we have teams out there right now at Previsto, and we're balancing the mix of demonstrating the high grades have continuity, like I mentioned before, and repeatability. So we're working within 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 meters of those higher grade areas we've identified. But as you saw in this release, we're also working up the half a kilometre away trying to test the system at the larger scale, which is the other part of it, right? We don't want to focus in on a postage stamp too quickly, but you want to demonstrate the high grades have repeatability and continuity if you can, and then you want to demonstrate the scale. So they're the two end members that we're grappling with. We'll be bringing more geologists to the team over the next month or two to increase that work, actually, because we're very, very excited about what we're seeing there, and we know we've got a window. We know that this is the dry period in that part of the world. It's harder to work from sort of November to April, so this is our time to get lots of work done in the field, and we'll make sure we make the most of it.
Well, exciting stuff. I know you're intimately involved with what now has morphed into one of the most exciting gold discoveries of recent time. I'm talking, of course, about the Sunday Creek project with Southern Cross Gold Consolidated, which now commands a robust market cap of $1.5 billion and seemingly headed much, much higher. That's turned out to be a phenomenal project. It's worth mentioning for the simple fact that I want to emphasize to people that look at the fact that there's only been a drill hole completed and you have a healthy market cap. I want to emphasize that this is a team that explores and drills methodically and has done this many, many times before. And clearly the majors understand that, and they really understand it as it relates to Previsto. But I am excited to get these first 3 projects drilled and to have better context as to the potential of those.
How great is exploration, and what a value creation tool it can be when you have success, and that's why we're all in the business. It puts tingles down your spine when you're finding things, and yeah, here we go again across on the other side of the world, I think.
Excellent work. Congrats on all the success, Mike. Looking forward to more. Take care.
Thanks, Gerardo.
Hey everybody, Gerardo Del Real here. If you're enjoying the content that you just saw, you can let us know in 3 simple steps. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and please share across your network and on social media. Take care, everybody.